Chapter 15. The Clue. The car hit the curb and the parking meter. I could hear metal and plastic crunching as I instinctively lunged for the hedge to get out of the way. Scrambling, I pushed through the thick shrubbery into the park. The car burst through the hedge behind me, causing me to flinch as it continued by. Tinted windows prevented me from seeing anyone inside. Gasping in shock, I saw the car brake and put on its backup lights as the driver shifted into reverse. Turning, I lurched over the broken hedge and ran toward the street. Perhaps I could get into a building and get away from the crazy driver who was bent on harming me. Stumbling over coins from the damaged parking meter, I fled to the street only to see another car bearing down on me. The mercury meter braked hard, coming to a halt right beside me. I rounded the car as quickly as I could, wrenching open the passenger door and hopping in. "My word, Ivy, you look awful," began Thelma. "Drive!" I interrupted her as the SUV backed out of the park towards us. Thelma's eyes widened as she took in the oncoming car and her foot laid on the gas. The meter sprang forward in response. I fumbled while putting on my seatbelt, trying to look over my shoulder to see the SUV behind us. The SUV paused in the middle of the road, then made a three-point turn, going in the other direction. I slumped into my seat with a gasp of relief. "What on earth just happened?" asked a confused and slightly shaken Thelma. "Honey, you have a twig in your hair." "I think someone just trying to warn me to stop the investigation," I breathed. As Thelma helped pluck the offending foliage from my hair, I recounted the events of the past few minutes. "Warn you?" exclaimed an upset Thelma. They tried to kill you." "I don't think so," I mused. Now that I was safe, I could think it over rationally. With the air cast, I can't move that fast. I think they were deliberately trying to scare me. "We need to report this to the police," declared Thelma. "They can find out who did it by the damage on the vehicle." I had a dry laugh. The police are the problem, remember? Likely it was Burmer or one of his friends. If they killed me, they would have to cover it up. This was just letting me know that they know I'm asking questions and snooping around. They want me to stop. I report this to the police and it will go nowhere. We drove in silence back to the Happy Camper Resort. As we made the turn into the campground, Thelma stopped the car, pulling it over to the side of the dirt path. "I am just glad I decided to check on you. I just had the feeling I should. I didn't want you to be stranded if your car had gotten towed." I reached out and took one of her shaking hands in mine, giving it a squeeze. "You have no idea how grateful I am you did come back to check on me." Thelma sniffed, wiping away a tear. "I'm always good in a crisis. It's afterward that I tend to fall apart. This is quite serious, isn't it?" "It is," I nodded. "We are going to have to be more careful." Thelma took a deep breath before turning the mercury back on. "These people have no idea what they're up against. We are going to uncover their scheme and get them out of our town. They don't deserve to be a member of Oaks Crossing." "Exactly," I agreed with her quiet determination. "I think we need to have the other councilmen involved in the scheme followed as well," decided Thelma. "We need to document who they are meeting and when. If Mayor Whitcomb chooses not to help us with evidence, we might have to break into a few offices. I still have my tools if we need to use them." Thelma had used her keys, otherwise known as break-in tools, to break into Al Frick's golf equipment rental shop a few months ago when we had been searching for evidence. I had never asked how she gained such a skill, nor had she volunteered the information. We'll give Whitcomb a shot first. I didn't refuse her offer to break and enter. Not when Luca was in prison and we needed all the proof we could get to help release him. Tomorrow we can start trailing towns, Jefferson and Salter. The clerk from the town hall pointed to them as possible suspects who are involved with Burmer and Boggs. "I will let the boys know," agreed Thelma. "We're going to need more people involved if we're going to keep up a good surveillance." "Just tell everyone to be very careful," I advised. "I would hate for anyone to go through what I did tonight." Thelma nodded. I watched, confused, as we passed the office. Thelma? I need to stop the office to collect cookie and cupcake." "Oh," an embarrassed Thelma said. "I'm sorry, I just wasn't thinking. If you don't mind, I need to grab my laundry. Afterwards we can loop back around to the office." "Sure," I agreed, but wondered why she would be using the dryer at the campground when none of the wash machines were working. Surely it would be easier just to complete the entire load of laundry at the town laundromat. Deciding it was none of my business how Thelma was doing her laundry, I kept quiet. "Here we are." Thelma put the car into park and shut it off. "Would you mind giving me a hand? I only have 2 baskets. If we both fetch one, I can get you back to the office quicker." "Okay." I thought it was a little odd, but willing to get out of the car to help. My confusion grew as we stepped inside. There was all my senior crew clapping, and someone popped a bottle of bubbly. What is going on? "Happy Laundry Day!" shouted Conrad as everyone cheered. "We all took our earnings from our events and taxiing services," inserted Herb, "and bought a few new washing machines." "All those treats I sold on the beach," said Mabel, "plus the money Loretta made from the hoodies almost bought one machine on its own." "They are used and a little dented," cautioned Thelma, "yet they're all in working order." "We came up with a bit of a fundraiser and got some donations for what we didn't manage to raise the funds for," mentioned Bea. "However, we now have a fully working laundromat at the campground. Even the guests can use it." "I chipped in for a new fire extinguisher," mentioned Agatha. There were big bows on the new and slightly dented white washing machines, which now took up the space of the old almond and green broken one that had been there. I felt myself cheering up. They are perfect. "It was so hard keeping the surprise," remarked Thelma as she gave my shoulder a squeeze. "I almost blurted it out a couple of times." "They are coin-operated," noted Herb as he handed me a set of keys. "This way you can get some money back to put away for future repairs, or replacements as needed." Someone passed a glass of something to my hand, and we all rejoiced with a little party. The ever-promised storm did not arrive overnight, and the morning was heavy with mugginess. It felt like I was walking through a fog of humidity as I dropped off Cupcake and Cookie with Mabel in the office. "Where is Conrad?" I asked curiously. "He's with the boys, following our various suspects around," mentioned Mabel as she gave my bosties a pet. "I guess he thought it would be exciting. Once he's done his shift, Conrad will take over for me." "Okay." I wasn't really surprised that the retired coroner would want to be in on the happenings of our investigation. "I'll see you later." Taking Luca's SUV, I drove to Mechanic Mike's garage. I was hoping they had my orange Beetle. Mike's was the only towing company in the area, so it made sense that they might have my car. The bell tinkled as I walked in the door. "Hey, Mike," I began, but he raised a hand to cut me off. "I don't have it," sighed Mike with regret. "I tried to talk to Chief Burmer into letting me keep your bug here at the lot, but the jerk insisted on putting it at the small impound yard they have at the police station. You need to go to the station to get your car back. I expect they will inflate the towing and impound fees, so bring your checkbook." "Burmer kept my car?" I asked in surprise. "Yep," commented Mike in disgust. "He was really snarky about it. Said he wanted to talk to you in person when you came to get the Beetle. Told me to call him when you came here looking for the car." "Are you going to call him?" I questioned, a little alarmed. "Are you kidding?" snorted Mike. "His royal policiness isn't getting my cooperation. In fact, I'm going to call up Whitcomb and tell him this guy is out of line, trying to take my impound fees. Your car wasn't used in any crime, so this is abuse of power." I had the feeling Oaks Crossing would see many more abuses of power if the election went the wrong way. I nodded, distractedly agreeing with Mike, which was all the encouragement the beefy mechanic needed to continue. "And if Whitcomb doesn't do something about it, then I'm throwing my vote behind Tawny Tilbury," concluded Mike with a decisive nod. "The election is 2 days away. That is a firm deadline for Whitcomb to keep or lose my vote." 2 days, I echoed. Was the election really that soon? I had been so busy lately it felt like time was just flying by. A lot can happen in 2 days. "It can," agreed Mike. "Ivy, don't you worry about your car. Let me talk to Whitcomb and get it back to the yard here. I won't even charge you for the towing or impound, as this is a matter of principle. I want to wipe the smirk off of Burmer's face." "Okay," I consented to his plan. "Thank you, Mike." "No problem." Mike had a determined smile. "I'm looking forward to getting your car back for you." I left Mike picking up the phone and trying to get through to Mayor Whitcomb. While I was a little shocked the police department had kept my car, I could see it was a strategic move. It was obvious that Burmer knew I was investigating between my missing car and nearly being driven over yesterday. He wanted me to be scared and to stop. That wasn't going to happen. I called George Kershaw for an update on what he had found as I drove to the town hall. "Hi, George, it's Ivy. I was wondering how far you had gotten through the invoices." "With the help of Topher's team of accountants, we are almost done," replied a confident George. "We've marked at least 40 invoices as being faked or inflated. The amount of money over the past 2 years being drained through the police department from the town of Oaks Crossing is at the $500,000 threshold. $500,000? I repeated in surprise. How long has Burmer been on the police force? Was he there when the invoices started to be switched? No idea, an apologetic George stated. I'm sorry, Ivy, I just don't know. That's okay, I assured him. I will talk to Warren and see if he knows. I'm also going to try to get you to audit the books of some other departments in Oaks Crossing, if I can manage to get a hold of them. I think this embezzling might be town-wide. If Burmer is taking money from numerous departments, we could be talking millions of dollars missing from the town, concluded a grim George. Exactly, I confirmed, which is why we need to stop him. Arriving at the Oaks Crossing Town Hall, I decided to give Warren a call before tackling the mayor. Hey, Warren, it's Anita, I greeted him. Anita, I can't talk to you right now, Warren told me. This isn't a good time. Okay, can I ask you a quick question? I wondered. You know, I think you are taking this relationship way too seriously, said Warren. Excuse me? I was a little lost about what Warren was saying. I just need to know when Burmer came to Oaks Crossing and started on the police force. I know it has been about 2 years since we first met, but we've only been dating for a little while, continued Warren. I feel like you're constantly breathing down my neck and watching me. I can't do anything without your marking on it. I don't want a girlfriend who's so controlling. You need to get a life outside of me. Warren had emphasized breathing down my neck, watching, controlling. His words clicked into my mind, and I asked, Burmer is on to you, isn't he? Exactly, exclaimed Warren. With all the stress at work and at home, I just can't do this anymore. I think we need to take a break, Anita. This was why he had gone through the effort of getting another girl to pick up the cake from the Tasty Treats bakery, a diversion for whoever had been watching in the police car. Warren believed his movements were being monitored by his fellow policemen. Then we will take a break, I agreed. Call me if you need something, Warren. Warren heaved a sigh of relief before talking to someone else. She hung up on me. Can you believe it? I heard the click as he ended the call. Warren had been brave, getting me as much information as he could when he was surrounded by corrupt police officers. I couldn't fault him for wanting to lay low, especially when the last police officer to go against Burmer was now in prison. The good news was Warren had intimated that Burmer had been on the force for 2 years since the beginning of the invoices being falsified. Putting my phone away, I went into the town hall, hoping to get more answers. I went directly to the clerk's desk, hoping to get an appointment to speak to Mayor Whitcomb as soon as possible. I would like to talk to Mayor Whitcomb, please, I stated, standing in front of the clerk's station. Ivy, I don't think that this is a good idea, began the clerk, looking furtively around the lobby areas. What do you mean? I frowned. During our last talk, the clerk had seemed like she was going to be helpful. I wondered if something had changed her mind, or perhaps someone. Mayor Whitcomb is busy with the election, she told me. Grabbing a pen, she scribbled something down on an edge of a paper. He can't see you now. This is about the election, I told her. I need to speak to him. It's urgent. I can't help you, she remarked airily as she ripped a piece of paper she had written on. At that moment, I heard Whitcomb's voice clearly. I turned to find him discussing something with another member of the council. Not wanting to waste the moment, I marched up to them. Mayor Whitcomb, I forced a smile. If I could have a moment of your time. Whitcomb looked at me in surprise and cleared his throat uncomfortably. Miss Thurman, if this is about the cupcakes, I assure you I paid in full for your services at the Barbecue Fest. It's not about that, I assured him. It's about a more pressing matter. I would love to speak to you in private if I could. Miss Thurman, the clerk huffed as she came over and joined our little group. I'm so sorry, Mayor Whitcomb. I tried to tell her that you were all booked up and didn't have time to see her. Ivy Thurman, I have heard a lot about you, the man who had been conversing with Whitcomb said, extending a hand. Kenneth Salter. Nice to meet you. I automatically took his hand before I realized that this was the man who was the treasurer of the Oaks Crossing Town Council. His eyes were unfriendly even as he smiled and squeezed my hand a little hard. Miss Thurman, Mayor Whitcomb looked at Salter with a bit of alarm. I really don't have time for this. I have a town to run. Please leave. This is urgent, I insisted. It's about the town. I promise I won't take up much of your time." "I simply can't talk to you today," remarked Whitcomb. "Security!" Salter snapped his fingers at the large security guard who was stationed at the doorway, which led from the lobby to the town council offices. "I told you before, you really need to go," admonished the clerk. She grabbed my arm, propelling me along. "You're practically a stalker, the way you always want to see Mayor Whitcomb." "Excuse me?" I asked, shocked and a little annoyed by her attitude. I pulled my arm out of her grip. "I just need to talk to the mayor." "Ma'am," the burly security guard said as he approached us, "you need to leave." "She was just going," inserted the town hall clerk as she gave me a little push. "You heard the man. You aren't wanted around here." I blinked in surprise at her hostility. Looking around the security guard, I could see Salter take Whitcomb by the shoulder, turning him back toward the offices where Boggs stood, arms crossed and smirking at me. The security guard grabbed my arm and I yanked it away. "I'm leaving." "Good," the town clerk practically spat at me. "I will escort you out." The security guard gestured that I should precede him out of the building. Scowling, I complied. Once we had reached the front steps, the security guard felt compelled to add, "Don't come back. I'll call the police if you do." Ignoring him, I got into the SUV. I waited until the security guard had returned to the building. Once he had, I opened the scrap of paper the town clerk had pushed into my hand during our altercation.